Populous Podcast. Popping up on your feed, yeah. Populous Podcast. Popping up on your feed. Populous Podcast. You didn't know you needed.
Hello, Wildman. Welcome to the Season 2, Episode 2 of the Populous Podcast. I'm your co-host, Sub-Zero, apparently, in this season.
Yeah.
I'm joined by
And
Key52, our host.
The other co-host. We're co-hosts, which means we co-host.
Yeah, but this is your thing. This isn't mine.
It was your
I
brainchild.
take no responsibility for the memes and things that you were adding in post.
You don't listen. They're great, and you're gonna love them when they're done.
I believe you. Yeah.
But we got a good episode today. We've got the history of Populous, and it's going to be quite a doozy because we've got a lot of ground to cover. This game is over 20 years old now, and there was a time back in the day where Populous reincarnated was not a thing, and we ended up having somebody return from the EA times. His name is Myth, but he went and is known better as the King DBM, and we're going to have him on the show today to discuss a little bit about his time back in the day. Back then, things were a lot different. Preachers were on. They played with Hypno. They played with Swamp. I don't want to get into it too much because Myth's going to tell us a couple stories, but it was a wild time back then. Definitely different than now. And it's just going to be interesting to hear his perspective of how things were compared to how we played when we came back in 2007, Craig, and then even now to 2020. So
Yeah, I'm going to be excited to see how it compares to today's standards of restrictions and maps and whatnot, because things were much limited
sure.
then. Things were much limited back then, map-wise, for sure. But I feel like people explored the game more restriction-wise, spell-wise, and building-wise.
And team-wise too.
Sure.
But we'll talk about that. So let's get inside. We'll say hello to Myth, and the Populous Podcast Season 2, Episode 2 begins now.
The Populous Podcast. Popping up on your feed. With your host, Key52, and co-host Sub-Zero. The Populous Podcast. You didn't know that you needed. The Populous Podcast. Yeah!
It's the Populous Podcast with today's guest, Myth, a.k.a. the King DBM.
The Populous Podcast. You didn't know that you needed. The Populous Podcast.
And we're back. Craig and I are here, joined by Myth, a.k.a. the King DBM. Myth, give us a shout out.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Myth is a player from long, long ago. He's made a return, although he's not made a grand return. He's just he's come back. He's surveyed the scene a little bit, played a couple games, shaken off the rust, watching some of the new tournament games that have come down the path, as well as the 8-player madness. Joined us in a live stream yesterday, and well, it won't be yesterday when we air this, will it? So who cares? Anyway, all that's not important. We are here with Myth now, and he's going to give us a little bit of insight. So, Myth, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and how you first got introduced to Populous.
Yeah, so I live on the West Coast in California, a small little town under the redwoods. I got into Populous, the first game actually, back on the Amiga, and really liked the game. So then I kind of decided to get into this one. I found a copy of it at the mall, and me and my friend at the time, we had lunch money. We were really young, and pulled it together to buy it. And we didn't even know it was getting released. We just saw it on a shelf. We're like, oh, we like this game. And at the time, I didn't even have a computer to play it on, so we had to play it at his house. We kind of traded off and beat the campaign. And then we're like, what the hell? Let's try this multiplayer thing. And of course, got stomped first couple of games, but ended up meeting some good players along the way that kind of took us under our wing.
So how old were you when you first started playing Populous? Beginning?
I want to say 13 or 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I was 12 when I started too. I was 12.
And this was release date time, 1998?
So like I didn't jump in right on release, right? Like
Yeah,
we were,
I didn't know about the multiplayer for a while either.
we were like a month or two, maybe 3 into multiplayer before. Like everyone was kind of ahead of us.
I feel like we're already discussing groundbreaking things compared to nowadays. Because back then, you could click the multiplayer button within the game, and it would take you to multiplayer, which hasn't been a thing since I suppose the EA servers were taken down.
It's true.
Yeah. And the whole like Java app and all that was kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah, there was some definite problems with Java, but it definitely was something interesting. I mean, Populous, it got released in 1998. For those who don't know, pretty solid reception, but not like critics thought it was great. Thought it was pretty groundbreaking on certain things, but it got released with Half-Life, so Populous kind of got its own Half-Life because of it. Populous did not get the reception it deserved. There was not as many people that played the game that could have played the game if it had been released at a different time. I think it got released around November of 1998. I remember seeing that thing right behind Craig right there, that Populous CD-ROM disc there, and I got involved, and I played single player for I think at least 2 to 3 years before I realized there was even online. I was playing Dungeon Keeper 2 instead of Populous Online, but I came in around 2002. So 2002, that's 4 years after the game had been released, and things had changed drastically by then. But Myth, we kind of want to know what multiplayer was like in the early days. I mean, the EA Matchmaker, what it was like, the community. Was it just as toxic back then as it is now, or was it still? I feel like there was more mature people that were playing the game back in EA times that kept the lobby like respectful enough. Like people were obviously like dickheads and stuff, but like I don't know. I would say that things were a little bit different back then. There was a more mature ladder of like elders, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was toxic, but yeah, not nearly as much. You had a couple outliers, right? A couple guys that were just really bad, but for the most part, people wanted to grow the community. So there was a lot of training going on, like, oh, get in my hut and I'll teach you how to play, or that kind of stuff. Multiplayer was all over the place. We didn't really have a meta like we have today. You know, you have like Fog of War on one game, or like,
Oh, you guys did have Fog of War?
oh yeah, Fog of War a lot. That was really common. Forge World would get turned on quite a bit.
Yep.
Spells would be all over the place. Most spells were played. They didn't start turning off spells until a couple years later.
Really? So, what were the first spells that took a hit?
Angel of Death was very contentious. Some people would play with it, some people wouldn't. So I think that was one of the first to go. Swamp,
Magical Shield, Swamp, yeah.
Magical Shield. And then from there, and like interestingly enough, Earthquake wasn't really used all that often.
Really?
I think people kind of underrated it. Yeah. So that kind of got the whole Earthquake early rush got kind of invented kind of late into the game. I think a lot of people just and were just trash at lightning each other and stuff like that.
But I feel like the Earthquake meta game comes from having certain restrictions off. So if there is no magical shield and there's certain things are taken off, Earthquake obviously becomes more powerful, and it's going to be the go-to as it is these.
Sure.
Yeah. And there was a lot of swamp spamming, like a lot of it. That was on for a while.
Yeah, I think that's probably why it got. It is. It needs to be nerfed in order to be able to be viable in multiplayer nowadays. It's just too powerful.
I do miss Fog of War, though. I will say that I think you can do some interesting strategies with it. You can hide warriors and huts or preachers or whatever, and do.
Yeah, did you see the beta update with Fog of War that they have?
No.
Yeah, so it's what's the word, Craig?
Renewable Fog of War, much like how it operates in other RTS games. So you discover the land, you'd have like pitch black. You can't see anything at all. You can't even see spells that go off there. When you discover it, you can see everything, but when you leave that area, it becomes like normal fog. So you still can't see what's happening, but you have discovered the land.
Yeah, like I think that Dictator map we played yesterday would have been really interesting with Fog of War.
Oh, it'd be a nightmare. But it would have been interesting for sure. Especially because if Craig was casting flattens, we'd have no idea where he was casting them. And next thing you know,
well, you would still get a notification of the area. You wouldn't know what it was casting, so you could sort of decipher that I was doing flattens across there, I suppose. Figure it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the early days, the EA Matchmaker, it was way different than the Populous reincarnated Matchmaker. Like, you had to log in online to popry.net. Nope, that's populous.ea.net or pop.net. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We've got one of our friends, Tidy, gave us all these images here that you're about to see. So, basically, this is what the EA Matchmaker looked like. We had 9 lobbies. But nobody was ever in usually all of the lobbies. They were in the one lobby. It used to be the 9 lobby, right? The Wildman lobby. Everybody would just go right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like the standard place to go because all the newbies were there. So everybody just congregated there because it made no sense. I don't know what EA was thinking, having 8 the shaman players go to lobby 8 and blah blah blah. Split up the community right at the very start of the game. Great idea. But people kind of figured out really quickly it was either lobby 9 or lobby 1, and lobby 1 was usually always the go-to when lobby 9 was broken. All right.
So sorry, it's just basically what you're saying there is only shamans could enter enter the shaman one, only fire warriors and above could enter the fire warrior one. So people were sort of segregated based on skill if they were going in certain areas.
I think so. I don't know. I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, Myth, but I believe the shaman lobby was still accessible for Wildman. I think they could still go in.
I feel like, yeah, you could go in any of them. It was just an arbitrary thing. I don't know. It was an interesting design.
And there was huts like in this one, but instead of 20 huts with the ability to choose 2, 3 player, 4 player, there was 1 2-player hut where you could play a 1v1 versus somebody on Eye of the Storm, which was the big one back in the day, right? But there was 2 3-player huts and then 2 4-player huts, and they had these little clouds of smoke coming off if you entered the hut and people were in there. There was also the ability for people to block the huts, which led to days where people couldn't play Populous because people were dickheads.
Yeah, but I was just going to say that happened occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, Wargle was a big guy, wasn't he? He was the big culprit of that.
Yeah, there was also a lot more 3v1s, 2v1s that went on. People knew what their skill level were, and they would, there was a lot more new players. So in order to try to make it fair, there was a lot of that going on.
I can imagine that now, even 2v1. Each skill level is difficult. It's, with the restrictions that are played these days, you're sort of pigeonholed into one strategy.
Yeah, I remember Zados was big on it. He liked the challenge, so he would challenge people to do it, and he would lose pretty graciously, but he would win a couple too. Yeah, that was the most renowned guy at the time when I was playing in '98.
So was there a rating system back then?
Just amongst the community, right? You just knew, kind of like how it is now. People just talk.
Yeah, I feel like this matchmaker that they have with the rating system now is so much more competitive and nice than EA's. EA's was you'd get 2 points if you won a 2v2, and you'd get the 2 points, and then you just gain points. Then the people that had the most points were good, right? But that wasn't usually how it was. Torado back in EA was infamous for being one of the top players, but literally just noob bashing and then playing 2-on-2 and abusing the convert on 2-on-2 to pray to the AOD head and camp there and win every game.
Yeah, and you get more points too, right? So the more people that are allied or are against you, the more points you get. So if you do a 3v1, you're going to get 3 points.
Yes, that was why a lot of people like to do that. And there right now in this day and age, there's no benefit to trying to do a 3v1. You don't get extra points or skill if you win. It's just kind of bragging rights, which that could be something that would be interesting to maybe try and hype up the community. And make it so that more professional players would want to play newbies because there's an incentive instead of just being So what was the lobby atmosphere like back in the day? What you said it was I feel like it was a family for me. Like that's one of the reasons I've stayed around Populous this whole time. Like at this point, it's a dysfunctional freaking family. Like it's a dysfunctional, but we all know each other. We all, you came back and you were asking about certain people because you had formed a bond with them. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think for you, maybe like you're kind of in it already, but I have like more of an objective view looking out. And I think the community is actually in a pretty good place right now. But back then it was pretty great too. But then you had your Lord Malls, that would just obscenely swear in the lobby all day long and call people names for no reason.
No mods to take care of it either.
Yeah, and so that would happen. And, when you're like 12 or 13, you're like, oh my gosh, what's this guy saying? Like,
yeah, that's true.
So what you're saying, there was no moderators back in the day? There was no EA moderators or any other stuff?
I feel like they come in like randomly, right, Myth? Like if it got really bad, someone would come in, right?
I don't remember any, maybe like the first couple months, but EA kind of did a hands-off approach after that. I mean, even the servers would crash and go down, and you'd be like, are they ever going to come back up? I don't know.
Right. Yep.
And then they'd come back up like a couple of days later, or sometimes even a week.
How many active players would you say there were at the time?
Well, I came in 3 or 4 months later. So even then there was, I don't know, 50 to 70, something like that on a weekend,
So the fact that we're there right now, Craig, like if you look in the lobby right now, we've got 44 people. Earlier today when the tournament was happening, there was like 55 people in the lobby, and there was like 30 people watching that stream. So, I mean, Myth might be right. The community could be in a really good place right now. I don't objectively think of it like that, but I'm looking at the lobby right now, and I just see so many warriors and preachers and braves and spies and stuff. I think we're on a path towards a better era here for sure.
I will say this though, Populous back then had a more even distribution of players throughout the day. So like I could get a game at like 8 p.m. my time, whereas here it's just dead in the lobby.
Yeah.
There was definitely more US players. There was more Japanese players. Like I remember we played a lot with the Japanese players late at night.
Oh yeah.
Stay up late with
late
us.
Night. Yep. Play with NG Kayan and Tsuyoshi, or who else were there? Was there anybody else?
Yeah. My memory kind of fails me that far back. Like I know we played some people, but I don't remember exactly who, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember playing Smart and Wishmaster a lot, and they were kind of my nemesis. I kind of secretly hated them for stupid reasons. They would just gang up on me because I was one of the only people on that late. So they'd stick me with noobs, and I'd be like, well, I can either play this game or not play. And being addicted to Populous, of course, I'd play it,
So you were, Keith is always sort of, I know originally when I played in 2004, 2005, Keith used to sort of idolize the myth/king DPM. So were you one of the top players when you were playing in, actively, I should say? I
think not at any given, like maybe at a couple points, sure, for maybe a year or half a year or so here or there. You stop playing and someone else comes in and they have more play time and more experience. It's hard to compete with that. I think at probably one point in time, like almost all of our good players have probably been top at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure. There was a period where I was top from about 2004 until about 2006, and I stayed on top. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I want to talk about Sub-Zero coming onto the scene, because Sub actually was one of the best players, and I want to talk about like the progression of all that. But when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit about EA players versus new players. I want to get Myth's opinion on the difference in skill and the gaps and the difference between the players. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The Populous Podcast, you didn't know that you needed it. The Populous Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Populous Podcast, or the Populous Popcast. Could have been the Populous Popcast, but I screwed up on that one. Sorry. Who suggested that, Craig?
Everyone.
Everyone. Yeah, we still Populous Podcast, but Popcast is good
I
too.
prefer Populous Podcast. Popcast is just
Me
too
too.
quick. Populous Podcast, you
It
can do
is.
more with it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, anyway, season 2, episode 2. We're joined here by Myth. Myth is also known as the King DBM. He was a massive player back in the day. He was one of the top players, and he's here to give us a little bit of history on his rise through Populous, and what really kind of drew him in and kept him in. And so, getting onto that, we wanted to talk a little bit about EA players versus the new players. You've kind of seen the new players now. You've seen how they play. Would you say that there's certain things that older players like knew that people here still don't know? Like, because you have mana. Like that was your big thing, Myth. Like you were known for mana. On PP, I remember one game we were 7 minutes in, and you literally had an earthquake, 2 tornadoes, and a firestorm already, and you firestormed the middle just. Like whatever, we'll just do it. And I had like 10 fire warriors up there, and you just firestormed them, and I was just like, then I lost. So, but yeah, no. What do you think the difference between the players are nowadays?
I think there were some kept secrets. I know I had some that like dismantle. Like I've been dismantling forever. Like I'll be honest with you. Like I think there's stuff like that. There was waypointing. There was things that people weren't using that you didn't want to give away, right?
Right.
I think EA players are really good. I think today there's this like misconception that like all the players today are better, and I don't 100% agree with that. I think they know more tricks, but I think EA players were really good.
I agree.
They had a lot more strategy. They had a lot more out of the box thinking in terms of attacking, when to attack and whatnot. I mean, and of course the restrictions, which we'll talk about. The changes.
Well, I think you're forced to be more creative, right? Because you had more access to spells. You kind of like today. There's just a meta of just earthquake stuff down, micromanage your wood, your huts, your troops, but. Back then, like you had Angel of Death. You're like, all right, well, how am I going to counter this? Or Swamp or whatever,
Yeah, most people weren't getting to 199 back in the day, were they? That wasn't like the focal point at all of games.
No. In fact, even Landbridge as a tool for base building didn't come into play till late. Like it was, I don't know. No one really
crazy.
did. Yeah,
they did it like. Did they use Landbridge as like an offensive spell to like break huts and stuff?
Not really. No, like even to repair your own base, it wasn't really used. That kind of came in later. Yeah.
Oh, I have a question then. Big one. Was Erode ever used even in EA times?
Not really. I was telling Keith, I trolled at one point and made an account called Erode, and that's all I used to beat people. And I would just slowly sink their base into oblivion as I played. Because back then, like Keith was saying, I had a good control on mana, so I could get away with it.
That's a big difference with the mana you're saying there. Is I remember when I was playing, if you knew how to dismantle and upgrade your huts, things were kept secrets then. It looked like you had a ton of mana and you were doing something secret. It's secret, which you kind of were, but you weren't doing anything special. It was just people didn't know how to do it. Yeah. Which I think nowadays everyone knows the tricks, like you say. So less, I guess, differences between the top players and then the better players. You can't reach the same levels of mana. It comes down to micromanagement and skill with the shame and stuff now.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I still use a road today, though. I think it's a situational spell, but it's good. Like if you use it right, use it on peaks. Like you really want to take someone's defenses away. Maybe it's a map where they only have a couple hills.
I think we should end this podcast now. I think he's lost all credibility. We should just end it now.
Well, you know what though, Craig? You and Genesis came up with the whole Earthquake Erode strategy. Like, or maybe that was just Genesis, but
no,
like,
but it was a gimmick.
But it worked. It destroyed my whole base. It
Yeah, but
many people's
if you can get in someone's base with 2 earthquakes and 2 erodes, you're already ahead of the game. I mean, you've got so much money. If you've got so much money, you're charging a road, you've already won.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, if you're doing a base trade with somebody and they have 2 firestorms and 2 earthquakes and not 2 erodes, but you have the 2 earthquakes and 2 erodes and no firestorms, you could come out on top on that trade still, because if you do it right, literally you can kill like 12 huts.
Oh, well, utilize your troops too. If you get their hills down and now their towers are vulnerable, a bunch of warriors and stuff like that, you don't need to waste the earthquake on that.
I suppose it depends on the map.
Yeah, I'm not saying use a road all the time. I'm just saying there's situational uses for it.
So, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, so the best player in EA, Zapdos, right? You said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen Nisi play. You've seen his stream. Now, the thing is, Nisi has literally only played the same restrictions for as long as he's been in the community. He's never really been open to preachers. He's never really had to play with preachers. He's never had to play with Hypno. I doubt that exposing him to those would make him suddenly be less better at the game, because everybody would be. But what do you think about Nisi's, because he is the top player. He is the best player of the game as of right now. He's got thousands of hours invested in the game. He knows every building pattern for every main level. He knows very well the shaman tricks. He's pretty much the best dismantler. So he's always higher at pop than people. What do you think about Nisi's gameplay if you've watched it or you've allied him to versus Zapdos or other people from EA times?
Zapdos, his biggest thing, he was really fast. He was really, really quick, really strong with a shaman. Probably comparable to Nisi in terms of that. So I do think if Zapdos was playing today, obviously he wouldn't beat him, but I think given enough time, I think he'd be really competitive. Nisi's also really, really quick. I've watched his stream, and I think good players are adaptable, right? They're smart. They can adapt to change. They can figure out on the fly what they're doing wrong or right. And I think that's one of Nisi's strengths. I think he'd be fine with preachers on or whatever. He would figure it out,
It does add a whole new level when you add in those kind of stuff, though. Really, it does. It's insane. And we'll talk about that a little bit going forward here. But we'll be right back. We've got to take another break, but don't touch that dial, because the Populous Podcast. Be right back.
Populous Podcast. Popping up on your feet, yeah.
All right, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Populous Podcast Season 2, Episode 2. I'm joined again with Keith and Myth, and we're going to pick up now from the death of Populous of EA.
You scared me for a second. I was like...
Gonna die one day. Has to. Everything comes to an end.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Everything comes to an end. Nice morbid response, but very accurately described for sure. But yeah, Myth, EA had a really big boom. It was like a renaissance period of growth for players. A lot of new people coming in, but as you said, the servers would close down sometimes for 3-4 days. People would be like, are they ever coming back? At one point, I think in 2001, EA shut down the Populous site for good. But CD Player managed to make a launcher, and that kind of changed everything. But you remember that time. Just wanted you to give us a little bit more history of that.
Yeah, so that happened. It was a huge blow. I mean, at first, too, a lot of us, we didn't know. It wasn't like EA was communicating with us. It's just the servers are down forever, I guess. And a lot of us went to GameSpy. And a lot is kind of an incorrect word, really, because it was a handful of us.
I tried GameSpy. That was awful. It was
really
awful.
Bad. And maybe there was 5 to 7 people on there peak, but you could be waiting hours to get a game. You'd hope someone would log in, and I think a lot of us thought this was it. This is the end of Populous, And I remember finding Gabber on there, and I guess he got in contact with CD and they figured out how to make a launcher, but that took a while. For a while, we were just on GameSpy.
It was Gabber, huh?
Yeah, I think so. He put some stuff together. Give him some credit.
Give him credit too. We love
It's been like the I don't know, like the what's the like the pinata of the channel for like a long time, and it was always just in jest. And then he started taking it seriously, so we started take our jesting a bit more seriously.
He pulled strings and put the community together, so I'm going to give him credit for that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we would have this today if it wasn't partially for him. I don't know.
Yeah, no, him and CD Player especially. CD Player's site was my go-to site that I'd always go for new news. Like CD Player was always updating, telling us what was going on. I remember when he posted about the Populous launcher that they had made and how it connected directly to EA's server, because EA shut down the site, but they didn't shut down the server. So we were still able to access the EA server through the launcher, and the launcher was constructed to allow us to play Populous just like we did, except through the connection of EA.
But keep in mind, back then, like, we didn't have Discord or Facebook. We didn't have any way to contact all these people to bring them back.
I know. I bet you they would have came too. They would have.
We had like ICQ and like AIM. Like, I don't know if you guys.
Yes, yes, I use those.
Yeah, Craig destroyed my first relationship on AIM.
But we've been there. Come on, push past it.
I can't. I mean, I'm married to the woman of my dreams now, but, I like this other girl, and you really ruined my chances. He messaged my dad, Myth. He messaged my dad on AIM and made like this kissy face, and he thought it was the girl that I was talking to. So he's at the bowling alley telling the story about how this girl was flirting with him, but it was Craig being dumb. And the girl's mom was there, and she literally like told the girl, and the girl goes, "I never want to talk to you again. That's not what happened, and I didn't speak to you or your dad." And I'm like,
you're
Craig
better
and I are
off.
still friends after that. I am better off. I am. Anyway, so yeah, we didn't have any of that stuff. We had AIM and we had ICQ, or was it ICQ?
ICQ, yeah. I did play on the year towards the death of it. I remember being able to change my grade via the URL. I was like a wild man. I would change myself to a fire warrior to fit in.
That was a big deal, man. That was another one of those kept secrets that it was really funny because it was just hiding all of our history. Like, any of us could have figured it out. I don't remember the first person to do it, but I remember getting messaged like, "Hey, like, keep this a secret. I don't know if you know about this, but you can change your name and your level."
Yep.
It's just right. So it was that simple.
There was a lot of trolling going on with that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
I was bag, and I remember playing as other people's names. I remember having to like get into their head and like talk like them, and that's like really steal their identity. It was bad.
But you were a child, so it's fine.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We got people now in their late 20s doing immature stuff. So, I mean, I think we'll be all right.
30s.
Yeah.
Are you talking about me?
No, I'm saying some people don't grow up. That's what I'm saying.
Some people don't. They never grow up. I'm wearing a nice button-up polo. So are you. We've grown up. Anyway,
Rough point now.
So Myth, the thing is, and one of the things that I've always been disappointed about is like you are always like so good, but eventually every player gets this feeling where they're just like, you know what, this game, and that might be blurped out in the actual episode because
I'll make it a shaman sound.
Okay. Oh, I like that. the whoop,
yeah,
kind of thing. All right. I
wasn't even thinking of that one. I'm definitely doing that one. Let's just get a few whoops in. Right, it's just gonna be full of whoops.
But yeah, no, I mean, everybody gets that feeling at some point in their Populous career. I mean, I had it too. I had it because Craig and Genesis were the best, and I just thought to myself, I can't beat them, and I hate this, and I hate losing, and my ego and my pride was my reason for quitting. But I came back like a year later, but yeah, they were winning nonstop, and that's what made me leave. But what made you leave? Were you on top and there was no competition?
I don't really know. I think a lot of it was just like I like to play other games, and I'm just like I'm getting kind of bored of this. So I remember a couple times I did come back. I've came back multiple times.
You have. Yeah, this is your longest stint though so far. This is your longest stint.
No, I remember playing with Myth in 2005-ish, maybe for a couple of months.
think I came back in like 2007 briefly too, but I remember coming back and Convert was off, and I'm like, "F- this shit."
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh god,
that was a
yes.
thing.
Yeah, that was a
That was
a
an
period.
era.
That was the entirety of my first 3 years maybe on Populous Reincarnated. There was no convert. Even on Pressure Point on some occasions.
No,
it was
that only
insane.
stayed for a very small period of time. Like
face off. I mean, what was it like in EA times in terms of doubling, backdooring, side dooring? Because for the first few years of Populous Reincarnated, backdooring and side dooring were like people didn't like it unless you agreed to it. And doubling was simply no. As soon as you attacked the other enemy of your team that you weren't directly opposite, they would just quit. You weren't allowed to attack with 2 shavens.
Yeah, I remember that actually. I played during that. I think that was part of the Convert era, and I hated it. I'm like, this is a team game, guys.
It
You
is.
guys need to figure out how to make it work. Backdooring's always been a little contentious. I feel like side dooring's always been kind of fine, but there's always used to be debates about backdooring, depending on the map. Obviously, like craters, like you can't really complain about it.
Right.
It's a reason I can understand some people's not wanting to do it, because maps like 2-on-2 have become so it's just red and yellow just backdoor. They ignore the objective of the map now. They just backdoor immediately, so people don't even play that level anymore now because it's sort of no enjoyment out of it.
What level is it?
2-on-2.
Oh
That
yeah, they did.
But during the EA times, that was one of the most popular levels. It wasn't
Oh, definitely.
And did you have the rule of no praying back then too, Myth? Or was praying a thing?
No, you fought over that head, man.
Yeah, that's the best part of the level, isn't it?
You died for that headstone like many times.
That level is what caused Craig and I, as the ham team, to lose our first game, because Abu and Who's a God allied against us, and Abu did this dumbass thing where he made Craig red and made me green and Who's a yellow, so it was like 1v1s on 2-on-2. That's what he did, and I ended up beating. You don't remember it?
No.
That was our first loss. How do you not remember that? I guess I remember things different, but yeah, Who's a God was yellow, and I rushed Who's and killed him, and I tried so hard to get a land bridge so Craig could come over and I could save him.
Does sound familiar now.
He ended up dying, and it was just 1v1 versus me and Abu. And with that AOD head, Blue has access to it. Abu's already got massive pop compared to me, so I tried getting the AOD head, and I ended up losing. And he got the AOD and just spammed it, and we ended up losing our first match. But we had won 30-something plus games at that point on every different level.
I wasn't as good as I got back when we were the ham team, though. I remember I made up for that. I made up for that loss when we did that 2v2 on PP, and you pretty much died and ran to the back of my base, and I had to win 2v1 against.
I helped. I think it was against Super Tribe and Walhalla, or Super Tribe and Tundar.
No, that was Genesis and Black Widow.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. That's right.
I remember those names. Yeah, I think I played a little bit during that era.
Yeah, Genesis was really good. Actually, there's been the rise and fall of players for sure. One of the things that we were going to talk about in the next episode was like actually going over each player and discussing like their skills and their personalities and whatnot. But Craig doesn't know that yet, but we're figuring it out.
You guys remember how you could teleport land bridge if you timed it right and teleport across the map?
That's probably one of the coolest things on 2-on-2. So fun.
A lot. You get called a cheater all the time.
Yeah, as if the game had resynced or something. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
You got Spinifex and Carbine in the lobby right now waiting for the PP game. Not doing it.
Fascinating.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just. I didn't tell you about this though, Craig. No, I did. Never mind. We talked about it on stream yesterday. Just annoying people dodging games. Now,
I believe it.
Talking about that though, clans. What were they like back then? And did you ever join one?
No, not really. I remember TA being around for a while. They were kind of like the nice chill clan. I remember liking a lot of the guys in that. But I don't really remember much of the clan stuff, to be honest.
I was Team Adept, right?
So yeah, I remember Servant being in there, and I was good friends with him. He was a really cool dude. Were you guys around for Servant?
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff for this game. He disappeared, but he did contribute a lot. I mean, Servant, what he did a launcher. I think he did a launcher. He was trying to help with Populous. He made the code of conduct for Pop-Re.
Yeah. I didn't know for the longest time, but I think he was in a wheelchair and he played a lot of games with a controller, which I thought was really impressive.
That is impressive.
Populous with the controller, being the PlayStation version. That's how I found the game.
Right. So how do you guys feel about the current meta of how things are played?
I'm vocally, I think it's boring. I've been vocally against it for a while. That was fun when I played it 12 years ago, but things haven't changed and it's pretty boring now.
Do you think that's why there is so much turnover and people just kind of disappear because they get bored of the game because it's just not changing up enough?
I think that's possibly a reason. I think the biggest reason initially was the toxicity of the matchmaker. It was always detrimental towards new players and the map pack rotation. It's stale as well, especially when new players seem to play Session near Palace non-stop. We tried to correct that a good 3 years ago, and there was a massive hoo-ha about it, so it didn't occur because new players were simply playing Cess Palace and nothing else, and it doesn't really do much for Populous itself, does it?
No. Who made that map?
It was made by someone in my clan, but these maps were made, back before those rating systems and stuff. They were just all fun levels. It was fun.
Yeah.
Fun map. Like the new worlds. No one. Can you imagine if everyone was just playing one Gabba map for the past 12 years?
I remember Gabber made a ton of maps. Like he just
he did
pumping them out.
Some of them were not so great.
I like to torture Keith by getting him to play them every now and then with our friend Hugo.
Well, you don't torture me. We just torture Hugo, but that's a different story. Hugo used to be addicted to Populous, and he lost the bug. Myth. He lost the bug, and he gained it back for a little bit. But then we played a 6-hour free for all, and he's like, I can't do this anymore. But we have fun playing those games. But everybody gets that bug, but then eventually it goes away. For Craig, it's always been. It's for a lot of people, but for Craig, it was like, all right, I'm the best. I'm not challenged anymore. No one is better than me, and it's just boring. And there's nobody that's challenging me, so I'm going to leave. And he did. And I felt like that was kind of what you did at the same time, but because you'd come in and make a return and just dick stomp like the top player that was there. I think one time it was me. We played a 1v1 on PP. I don't remember the specifics. I remember it was yellow. I was yellow. You were green. You charged. I charged tornadoes early on, like I usually do. You did not, and you charged earthquake. And then 8 minutes later, you were in my base firestorming because I had spammed all my tornado mana on your towers, and you just kept rebuilding. And then you were like, "Good game," and then you quit, and you didn't come back for another year.
Yeah, what I would have done. I think I actually remember that game a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, bits and pieces. I don't remember the gist of it all. I just remember those small things there.
So many, there was no streaming back then, was there? Couldn't you imagine how it might have been if we had streaming back then?
Yeah, that is a question I had for Myth. Myth, do you think that if we had all of the features of this matchmaker that we have right now, the levels, the 8 players, do you think that we could have been something a little different? Like this community could have thrived, grown. We'd have double the number of people in here right now.
So, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's a shame. There's so many good features now, and it's wonderful that we've got 48 people playing on a Sunday. Right now, it's great, but it's just frustrating to me that we had so much opportunity to get all this done back in 2007, 2008. But
there's 2 things I want to track back to there. The fact that you said Hugo lost the bug, but he's also got the unfortunate. Well, it's just unfortunate to live in Brazil, which means he doesn't have the option to play with local players. He gets 300 ping, which is something that you were saying, Myth. There used to be players from all over the world back there. Now it's EU time is prime time, essentially. And I was curious, Myth, you asked us what we think about the meta, but what do you think about the current meta?
I don't know if I played it enough to be really fair about it. 2 things I've noticed is map size is drastically decreased. We have smaller bases now, and there's like this wood mini game. Some people really enjoy. I think there's so many other things to micromanage in the game that wood is not one that I don't mind if it's a strategic resource, right? Like on craters, you go down to the islands, you get extra. But I hate how every map plays that way now. It's just kind of boring. I don't mind some maps play that way, but I don't want every map to play that way.
It's also where you have sort of positioned next to your ally, and there's like one route to attack the opposing team. There's no different routes to take anymore.
Yeah, back door and side door would be impossible. Mm-hmm.
Partially like that because it's more of a team focus now. Like I hated before how it was all these little 1v1v1v1s, right? Like, and that's where it led to that toxicity of like, don't attack on 1v1 so and so. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
I remember
craters
those,
was that was always craters, wasn't it? Like yellow and blue versus green and red. No, sorry, yellow and green versus red and blue. And you were expected, like there was this unspoken agreement where if you killed your opponent, good job, yay, but you can't finish off the other player unless your ally starts dying. You have to sit there. It was just weird. It was weird. I followed the rule too.
Right? Like everyone, like we're all guilty of it, right? Like we have this ego and we want to prove that we can beat so and so and have witnesses. We didn't have streaming back then, so you needed someone to witness it.
Yeah, you needed street cred. That's right. Yeah, that's true.
It was never fair though. One side of the team would get the 5-star Stonehead, and the other side be like, "Well, let me beat them on 1v1," but really you've taken an extra 3 5-stars against them to win.
True.
So that's kind of where I like these new team maps. But yeah, I also agree that like there's some variety would be good just in general for the game.
Definitely.
Sometimes
4 Walls has been really popular lately, and I think it's a solid map. But again, it's like all I've been really playing.
It can be good. I mean, maps like that can be good, but it's just all you play over and over and over.
Yeah,
it's just nothing. It's always the same. There's no different outcomes. It's not like when you're playing Dead Sea, where anything can happen on Dead Sea. It's just an insane map, but a lot of people are just put off by it because there's just so much to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. There's a lot of micromanaging, but it's not wood. You got plenty of freaking wood. It's just micromanaging a bunch of different troops, watching your base. Like, and I love Dead Sea, and I wish it gets played more. But people, I don't know. People don't like attacking right away now. People like sitting in their base, and they like dismantling for like 30 minutes, and it's just like that level 4-way. I enjoy it too. Like I like sitting in my base, dismantling to like 80 pop, and then getting started. But you know what? Like I was like, instead of the dismantling, why don't we just have everybody start with like, an extra 20 pop, and then you don't have to worry about that bullshit.
Yep.
Like, because here's the thing, if everybody starts with extra pop on certain maps, like if Face Off, if everybody started instead of with 6 Braves on Face Off, you started with 12, right? PP starts with 9, and PP is always so fast and aggressive. I feel like if Face Off started with 12, and you had the ability to be more aggressive early on, you'd be punished for dismantling instead of being rewarded.
I feel like it's the Wildman count. PP's got a lot of Wildmen, you can get the game going really quick, whereas Face Off, there's a few Wildmen, then you've still got people still sit back and dismantle waiting to get a decent population. And just you do all this rushing for the middle, and then people just sit in the bases before they even contest the middle, which sort of defeats the purpose of the map a little bit.
I know, it's frustrating. And I think that's the meta that's kind of just been spoiled, but
people
somehow,
don't like
some way we got.
Sorry, people don't like their shaman not being as important units like on Dead Sea. Because on Dead Sea, your shaman isn't as important as it is on other levels.
Well, I think that's why preachers got turned off, because you get a preacher in the back of someone's base, even just one will devastate a base. You get a warrior back there, it's gonna die. Like it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So it's taken off troops being deadly and put it more on the shaman, which I again don't really like. Like I miss troops.
The thing with preachers is it also deters the whole, like, okay, I'm behind by 50 population. Maybe I can still get in this, but no, I can't because I got 50 warriors coming at me, and there's nothing I can do against it. I haven't got preachers to defend.
No counter.
I'm going to get overrun. As simple as that.
It's not even just that. It's that lame-ass strategy that people do now, like on Pressure Point. Like, people literally will make 30 warriors. They'll send them to the middle, wait for your shaman to die, and then they'll send them in. Or you'll kill their shaman, they'll run their warriors from the middle and go back to the other side of the thing, and then they'll try to attack you with the warriors on the other side. And a preacher would just instantly solve that dilemma. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. Have 50 50 warriors. I'll make 10 preachers and I'll take a bunch of them.
Yeah, they would just have to have some preachers in the included with their warriors and have to manage them a little bit better rather than just send them in aimlessly and let them just do the thing.
I remember when they started turning preachers off. I was playing during that, and it started at the bottom. It started with noobs, and then they got a little better, and they were like warrior-ish rank, preacher rank. They slowly got ladders, and they just instituted it as just the meta.
That is exactly how I think it happened here with preachers. We played with them back in 2006 and 2007, but the people that ended up leaving, obviously no longer had any say in the restrictions, and people who used to get beat because of preachers would turn them off, and they started becoming the best players in the lobby. And now the best players in the lobby have no idea what it's like to play against preachers. Half of them would lose.
I think that might be why, too, I struggle with this meta, because I'm so used to them. Like, I'm stuck without them.
You played with us yesterday, and I always put them on as host, generally.
I think after this tournament is over, I want to start maybe looking into doing that, like putting preachers on and in my games and see how people respond. Because it really isn't that backbreaking of a unit. Like, there's counterplay to that, too. Like, they have very low health. They can't just go into the base and
towers, like so many counters, just fire warriors outranging them.
It's just that people don't want to have to sacrifice mana generation for spells to actually train additional troops and get less mana over time because they've got trained followers. People enjoy casting, don't they?
Circles back to just how powerful the shaman's gotten. Like, the shaman is the game decider now. It used to be like almost kind of even. Like, you could be more troop focused and actually wreck someone's base.
Yeah.
I think it still is kind of that way. Yeah, like on PP, if somebody goes to double the enemy, if you've got 30 warriors, you can break their base and get in and do just as much damage as they do to the enemy, to the ally that they're doubling against you. But it's just nothing compared to what you could do if you had a couple ghost armies and warriors and preachers, and then send in a couple fire warriors too. Like, it's just, there's so much versatility that preachers offer, and them being turned off, I think, is a really big detriment to the community.
Well, I mean, Face Off is a great example of the preachers being turned off. Because as soon as you lose control of the hill, attempt to side down one of your enemies, both teams will just flood your base with warriors. 2 tribes of warriors coming in, and you can't clear up with that. You're just one tribe, and you haven't got all your nothing you can do. The only counter towards warriors is the preacher, and they turn off. Fire warriors can't do anything against them. They used to, back when we used to press the a few keys on our keyboard to make them avoid damage, but can't do that anymore. What was that like, Myth, back in the day? Did you have the tricks you use where you could prevent combat?
That was the only way I could play the current meta. Like, at least I had that to fall back onto. Now I don't.
I know. I saw you do it, and I saw you do it on our match, and I didn't say anything. But I was like,
well, that was that's it. I came back a few years ago, and I started doing stuff like that and getting your shaman to avoid taking damage by casting out of range and stuff. But all of that's now disabled in the beta 1.5. It's now disabled outright. You can't even turn it on as an option. But other glitches remain as options, which sort of like, who draws the line here?
This is going to be crazy, but I think dismantling should be turned off. I think it's not an intended design by the developers. I think it really is.
The only thing I have about that is you'd either have to stop new huts from producing a brave, otherwise people will dismantle the entire build and then just rebuild it to get an extra man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if they want to do that, God bless them. Like, whatever. I like if they want to spend the time dismantling the entire hut to get another brave.
Doesn't take that long. 2 men do it easily, and the foundation's already set. The wood's already there. You build it straight back up. It's only going to take a bit longer. They'd have to change the dynamic of the game, I think, which I'd be happy to see if it would encourage people to fill in their huts more rather than just dismantle it with 1 man, and that would slow the game down.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the biggest countering of dismantling is larger bases, right? Like, you just don't need to do it if you can grow big enough.
Yeah. But that's the problem with these new maps that people are making nowadays, is that they'll literally make big maps with like little trees because it's like the meta now to conserve your wood. And I do enjoy the strategy behind chopping wood and harvesting. Like, back in EA, craters like that, you had to chop your wood in order to be able to survive the late game. But now it's like if you don't chop your wood at all in certain maps, you're just woo. Sorry.
Yeah, like I was saying, like I don't think every map should be that, right? Like I don't mind craters
I
or
agree.
maps.
It was like that. It was like if the horse had lined up craters, you knew what you're getting yourself into. You're gonna have to pay attention to your wood. You're gonna have to, just play more carefully. You can't just be like PP and just smack this base up and then just go to town the enemy. You've got to pay a bit more attention to your base build.
Yeah.
And I think these smaller maps also favor less skilled players, right? Like they don't, because you grow exponentially.
Yes.
So the quicker you are, you're going to grow at an exponential rate with your huts. But if you're constrained by your size, it's going to favor.
You literally can only peak just like the other players.
Yep.
That's why people love Cess so much, man. That's why they love it. Like, did you watch the tournament game today at all? I could spare you the details, but it was literally just we casted an earthquake on their team first. Our strategy worked out well. We tried to cut the land so that we'd get an advantage. Our land cut like a little tiny sliver, so it cut a little tiny sliver. So we did cut them off, but one flatten was going to connect them back, and they cast one, and it literally cut an entire ally off. So blue literally could not connect to the middle and fight with our ally. So they ended up getting doubled.
Why was the decision made to play that map as part of a tournament? There's even an updated version of the map that is, actually called Cecil Near Palace, not Nuba Near Palace. It's actually an updated map. It's still crap because the map concept is terrible. But if you do get cut off on one side, you still connect to your ally through the back.
Yes, yeah,
totally unfair.
I don't know. I think that a lot of people mentioned that today after they watched the game. Like, I think sometimes it takes like a high profile thing like this tournament, like to have people watch a game and be like, "This is."
You're literally charging earthquake just to cut the land off. I mean, at what point do you realize this is absolute nonsense? This is not how Populous was supposed to be played. I don't think.
Mm-mm.
And you can't fix it without.
Because Lambridge just turned off. It's like, why didn't the horse just turn Lambridge on then? I don't know. I mean, if you're going to do that, fine. That would change the dynamic a bit, wouldn't it?
I think the map would be easy to fix with just Lambridge Stoneheads in your base that are leave Lambridge off, but it slow charge rate in your own base.
Yep.
Fix the map instantly.
Just weird. And then like, the fun part is when you get to like the late game where to expand, you have to charge flattens, and you have to cast it on the back of the land. And if you cast it wrong, you sink your land. Then you screw yourself even more. It's just a stupid map.
I think that map's being played so heavily has also had a detriment to the growth of the community. Thankfully, I don't think it's as bad now as it was a few years ago, but it was really bad.
It's not being played as much anymore now, for sure. But it was definitely played too much, like to the point where I literally didn't want to play Populous.
It's literally all people you'd log in. All you would see people hosting, especially the lower ranks. That's all you would play.
Well, because they'd have the chance to beat you guys.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that underdog feeling for playing that kind of map for sure.
I mean, it's luck, isn't it? Your shaman might go in the water. Your path might get sunk. It's all mights and maybes. It's just a complete RNG related map.
That's exactly what I just said today at the tournament. Like the enemy team cast an earthquake twice, and it sunk both our training huts on both of our teams. Like, and then the one that they did cut off our ally, ours just cut a sliver but kept them connected.
Well, that's the other thing about the map. The land is so shallow that an earthquake just literally devastates your land completely. And I'm using literally here because it is literally devastating. Mm-hmm. I don't use literally in Muskeith.
Literally, a lot.
I think that map, if it's going to be in the tournament, which I think it has no right being, it needs to be best 2 out of 3 with something so luck based.
Yeah, I agree. But that will be taken into account for sure going forward, because I think a lot of people realize that that was a map to pick for a tournament. I think they thought it was good in premise, and I think their reasoning behind it was, everybody plays this nowadays, so maybe we should put it in there because it's one of those most played maps. But
it's got no right to be any sort of competitive tournament.
The lesser skilled people on our team were put on Cess because we knew we were going to lose that map, because they put Bianca, who plays it nonstop, who doesn't like it but gets stuck playing it because all the noobs play it, and then Marcus, who played it with Matt and all the Discord people before Matt got banned. I mean, they played it every night, like 3 times a night. Like, it was ridiculous. So
I remember Matt. He got banned?
Yeah,
Finally,
he did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Living through like so many blasts. Of course! Yeah, right! You, man. Don't join in my huts, bro. You're so fucking fake. Wasn't a fucking GG, bro. You fucking cheat to win, man.
He
That's
was
that's
really
yeah.
toxic, to be honest.
He was discussed in the previous podcast. He was essentially banned because he was beginning to stalk people in real life and stuff. I wanted to ask Myth, you've played a few games since you come back. What maps have you played and what maps have you missed?
I played Pressure Point twice. I played 1,000 of those 4-wall games. And I like the map. I get frustrated with the pathing in the map. I know it's intentional, but like I like to be able to support my ally, and I hate how like
it's the initial the slope thing. It's horrible.
It kind of pushes you into charging Lambridge and fixing it.
It would be nice if there was just a little thing right around the edge there, like a little U.
Yeah, and it is a small map, which I kind of don't always love. But it's a good map. I enjoy it. I'm trying to think what else I've been playing. I guess I could look at my match history, huh?
You played Hollow Fields with me, that one map with the trees, the micromanagement of trees.
Have you played, let's see, 4-way? It's in the same 4 walls map pack, isn't it?
Yeah, very popular. You played Have you played Face Off at all yet, Myth?
Don't think so.
I wouldn't recommend it. It used to be fun back in the day, didn't it? Face Off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Face Off for how fast paced it is, but I hated how unbalanced it was. Like it always irked me, and that's why I tried to fix it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, people play your map a lot. Kid, this like really Scottish Populous player. He
really Scottish.
Yeah,
to be fair, that's the only positive characteristic about him.
I mean, he came back about a year ago, or maybe less than that. But he played nonstop every day, and every time he hosted Face Off, he would play your map. So now that map is being played a lot for people who don't want to play blue the way that blue was designed on there. But
do you remember Rhesus Monkey?
Yeah, I realized we were kind of dicks to people on Face Off. Like we land bridged Rhesus Monkey's hills all the time.
Yeah, but
like,
he
was blue.
He knew that was coming, so his first move as blue was to flatten his hills with land bridge. This is 2004, 2005. That was his first thing. He loved that map. It's all he ever hosted. He was the number 1 ranked shaman because he had the most points for a long time. And all he would do is he would charge land bridge at the start and just flatten his hills because he knew he was going to get land bridged over.
You played a lot of Face Off too late at night. You guys might have missed that.
Yeah, the Face Off actually became really popular, and they put Convert back on because the God Clan started doing towers on the hill. Like some hardware figured out that if you put, I mean, this is obvious to most of us, but hardware figured out if you put a tower plan right on trees, that they would build almost instantly compared to if you stuck them not next to a tree and they'd have to, I don't know, whatever. But God figured that out, so they decided that their strategy was going to be build 6 towers on the hill apiece and on the trees immediately, and then just swarm the hill with fire warriors and immediately win the game because they could double whoever they wanted out. And that kind of really ruined Face Off for a lot of people because it was really hard to counter. You can't.
Well, that's the gist of Face Off in general now. Lose the hill, lost the kid. There's no way coming out of it. There's really not. The hill's got so much land. You can build tons of huts on there. You've got all the additional wood for your base to upgrade. You've got routes into everyone's base. And if the enemy wants to get it back from you, they have to expel tons of mana just to do that, or they side door and then get doubled. So really, it's not a balanced map like this is.
I'm working on a new Face-Off style-esque map. We'll see how it plays out. I got to play test it, and I got some feedback, so I'm kind of working it a little bit.
I think I saw it. I liked it. Is it the one you sent to me?
Yeah. I got feedback that it was too big, and I think it was. It's kind of hard to tell perspectives in the editor. It's like, I don't know, I've struggled with it. But yeah, I've been working on it for like 3 days now. Like, I think I've put like, I don't know, 24 plus hours into this so far.
Holy, I mean,
hoping, yeah, I just need to get the newer versions out there, and I have an 8-player version of it. So sub, you can do it. Hopefully, one of your streams.
Well, should we cut to a break, Keith, and then go to final? Whatever.
I'd say so. So, Populous Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. We'll be right back.
The Populous Podcast. You didn't know that you needed. The Populous Podcast.
Welcome back to the Populous Podcast. Welcome back to the Populous Podcast. I'm your host, Keith52, co-host Sub-Zero, right next to me. I'm pointing the wrong way, but I'll edit it to make it look right. So, yeah. Anyway, we got Myth here. Myth is the King DBM. He was one of the top players back in EA times. He started back in 1998/99, back when the game first launched in multiplayer. And for those of you who missed it or just wanted to recap, we basically talked about how EA was a really interesting time. A lot of potential, a lot of new players learning how to play the game. The meta's changed a lot since then. It's nothing like it is now, but the matchmaker and the ability for us to bring people into the community now is so much stronger than it ever was. So we've kind of entered this era where Populous is on the up, and Populous has had a history where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and then really, really, really down. At this point now, I think we're on an up, and I think the potential for it to keep going up is there. We've got a lot of really good things. So, I just wanted to kind of close out and, say, Myth, what brought you back just a couple weeks ago? Like, I mean, you were gone for years, and I'm talking years at this point, and you just came back in and you were just checking in. What did it?
I've always kind of loved the community, and I kind of popped in on the forums, and I saw some like doomsday posts about how Pop's dying, and I'm like, man, I should get in on this and at least play a couple games before it peters out completely. But then I come on and there's a ton of people on here. So I think I missed it. I heard it was a lot worse.
It was really bad. It was really bad.
I'm actually really happy it's doing so good, and I'm really glad that it's getting the support it's getting. Like Inca and some of the developers and names I probably don't know, but I think like people forget that they're doing this on their spare time, and they probably work and have regular jobs, and they're supporting the game.
Of families.
I think that's really cool and really positive, and I feel like people get kind of frustrated with them, like, why isn't beta out sooner, or this fixed, or this or that? But like, they're doing it on their free time. Like, I don't know. I think that's really cool.
So, Myth, do you think you'll stick around for a while? If not, what would you like to see that would make you stick around for a while?
I plan to be around for at least a couple more weeks. But we'll see how it goes. I really, this kind of contradicts what I just said, but I really want to see the beta integrated as just the main game.
We've talked about this on the last podcast episode. We're fully agreeing with you. There's a couple bugs, as we've seen, but
I want the pathing and the wood finding and stuff to be fixed, but I really think it'd be healthy for the game. Like, I've had a lot of issues just trying to get back into it with the game crashing. Like, if I'm not running beta, like, it bugs out. Like, I've had to reinstall Populous like 4 times now. Like, I don't know why I have to keep doing it for non-beta.
I was going to say, they were discussing making it as a version 1.5. It's kind of like the default, I suppose. And then you would see players in the huts, you'd see people hosting 1.03, which is what the original game is. It would have the version number next to it. But then you could host and see, there's a 1.5. Clearly, that's the more improved version. I think we'll play that. Then people will know there is a better version there to play.
We were talking about how beta is kind of a turn-off word. Like old. Makes you feel like, beta.
It fits right now because it has bugs. but I think I would go one step further and not even give players the choice. I really worry that you fractured the community that's already small in half. And like, as is right now, no one wants to play beta. Like, if I host it, I get like 1,000 PMs. Like, change it to regular and I'll play.
Yep. That actually was what we had to do the other night to get you to play. And then we never ended up playing it anyway, I think. But it is frustrating because, beta is so much better. It really is. There's just so many benefits, like spells cast, object overload. The game doesn't lag when you have hundreds of objects. I remember like really intense PP games, like back in the day, like I would start skating near the end of the game because like there's too many objects and my mouse was like I couldn't move it that well, and I would like lose shaman duels because of it. But beta doesn't do that. Like, I just I do agree with you on the forcing thing. I talked about that in the last podcast, and Inca and Brandon were kind of like, oh, we don't want to force people, but you think of any other game, League of Legends, they have patches every single like couple of months, sometimes even like every 2 weeks, and they will patch things and fix them. And people can't be like, well, I'm gonna stick with the old one and you guys can play on that. Like, they're like, no, you play this or you don't. And I guess the difference with them is they can afford to because they've got millions of players, and so even if like a million leave, like they still have another million, like more than 2 million. But it is tough because with Populous, you've got stubborn people who you got Weed, who used to play religiously, and then he decided he wasn't going to play anymore because the matchmaker was filled with too many gay people. Which that no loss there, no loss there. But it's just so weird how some people literally won't play over certain things. And my point to that the whole reason I use that example is because Weed didn't just hate gay people; he literally hated playing games where he would lose, and he always wanted to ally the best players, and he became so toxic that people didn't want to ally him anymore, so he just doesn't play anymore. So we've got people like that were like top players. Like Weed was one of the top players in the lobby, and it was really frustrating because these people were so toxic, and they're like the respected members of the community. So I think we're in a good state right now because we've got people like Lavenji, right, Craig? Like Lavenji's in the lobby a lot, and he is not the best player, and he admits it himself. He says he's not great at the game. But what he does bring to the community is respect and maturity. And there's a lot of mature people in the lobby right now compared to before. And so the atmosphere is so much different when it comes to that, instead of having to sit there and be like, well, your mom's a whore, or your mom's a dick, and like you're just a mistake and you're ahead. And that literally was the conversation even just like 6 months ago.
Sounds like Lord Maul. There's always going to be those people in communities. They kind of weed themselves out, like you just said. So I don't know. But back to the beta, I feel like people should really list their grievances with it. Like release a new version. All right, let's sit down. What do you guys really don't like about it? Move on from there. Like, I hate how it's so vague now. Like, people don't even know why they don't like beta. Like,
did you notice that one time we played?
Yeah, it's just like, I just don't like it.
You just don't like change.
Yeah. Yep. And I hate fighting the game. Like, I want the game to be about my skill and another player's skill, and I don't want to feel like I'm deselecting because the game's a little laggy, or my lightning's off because it's slowing down, or like I hate like struggling with the game engine itself.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely. I don't play multiplayer 1.03 anymore. I just don't subject myself to it when there's a better version of it.
Yeah,
but I don't play it that often. So when I do, I tend to stream and I get other people wanting to play the beta at that time. So I'm sort of privileged in that respect to play the beta. But
it's true.
In your position, I'd want to play it. It must be tough trying to just play the game for fun for an hour or two a day, and you have to play a lesser version of a game when there is the better one right there that people could play.
Hard to get games, man. I don't know if you've just tried just playing a game during the day, but like no one wants to play it really. You can maybe get a couple people in like a 6-player or 8-player. There might be 1 or 2 of those throughout the day, but
they won't even do a 2v2 on it, which is it's odd, isn't it? Unless you can have more players, it's like there's no point playing the beta, which is nonsense. And there are people right now trying to sort of, I guess, correct that. So I think there's a beta 2v2 tournament in the works. So that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really all that I want to see, though. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but that's pretty much it.
Would you like to see Preachers back on?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to like changing up game modes in general. Just like turn on Fog of War once or Forge World or play with Hypno or Magic Shield. I don't care. Like mix it up, you know? Like don't be afraid to lose with spells you're not comfortable with. Like that's what's honestly going to make you better anywa's. You know, you're going to be able to
Hypno would be one of those spells I'd like to see turned on for a trial period run because, you know, it's not overpowered. I mean, here's the thing: if somebody rushes, if you charge a Hypno on PP early, and somebody tries to rush you with 6 warriors, and you hypnotize them, there you go. You've just spent a very small amount of mana defending one really big attack that could have hurt you, and you can also do it when you're attacking. Like if somebody's sending fire warriors at you, you can take them. Like
the argument I heard against hypnotize was that if someone hypnotizes, someone else hypnotizes back, and you're just wasting time by casting spells. But really, that's nonsense. It's just you're opening up different strategies. There's different routes to take. Maybe you don't want to charge hypnotize. Maybe you want to charge tornado instead. You know, having more choice doesn't mean that people aren't going to be pigeonholed into one route.
I think there's something to be said about maybe balancing some of these spells, and that's a whole other discussion to be had. But like, I don't know if their mana costs and their values are really justified. Like, I think Angel of Death should cost way more. I don't think it should be spammable, but I'd love to see it back into play. You know,
I don't even think it's that good. I think it probably is fine because it's useless. You get some ghosts out, it just stands there and does bugger all. I don't think it's as good as it can be. But again, that's map dependent. Right?
Maybe change how it prioritizes shamans, because that's kind of frustrating.
It does love shamans, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm really worried about hotkeys for spells. I will say that if that becomes a thing, I don't know if I will play again.
Oh god, well, it was nice knowing you, Myth. As soon as hotkeys, I'm very.
I thought you wanted hotkeys, Myth.
I think those little moments where you pause to select a spell is that important vulnerability that you open yourself up to. And I think without that, just being able to move constantly and just hit a button and shoot, I think you're going to get longer, campier games.
You've still got to go to your spell panel to charge things, though. You can't just do everything from your hotkeys.
You're in a shaman duel.
You technically could. That's what Brandon was saying. They could do all that.
You haven't got a keyboard the size of your desk to do that, though.
That's what they want to do, though. And again, also new players. I think, like, if you're new to this game, they're like, hey, bud, you got to buy in like 20 keys. Or even your top 10. Like, I think that's hard to get into.
But I've had more people asking me how you play with hotkeys and when are the hotkeys for spells, and I've had people say, you know, don't want them. Well, I suppose bad comparison there. People don't say they don't want them if they're not there. I don't see why it's a negative if it's allowing you to do something more easily. Much like the dismantling glitch as an alt king.
You could have shamans harder to kill because you're not paused. Like the moment you're like moving your mouse to the side to select a spell and then back again, that's a microsecond that you're vulnerable potentially. Right? You can either aim shot or
possibly, but you tend to move your shim before you select your spell anyway.
Yeah, but then you're moving in a straight line or a diagonal and you can get aim killed. But if you're just constantly moving around, you don't have to worry. Like you can focus on moving your shaman a lot more with hotkeys.
Which I think is a good thing.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm all for key bindings for WASDA and stuff like that and scatter. Like I hate having to drag my keyboard over to the side every time I play.
Oh no, I have WSD used, but I would like a hotkey for me shaman, stuff like that.
We'll see how it goes, I guess. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and it could be fine.
I think that's the thing. I'll be curious to see how it is. I'll definitely be testing it. I'll definitely be coming up with some of my own personalized keybinds.
I guess the big thing is just like the thing that I'd like to stress is just we need to put these things into action, and we have to force things in order for people to try them, because otherwise they won't try them. And if they're not good, then we can revert. But you know, like the beta, like we found out, like Myth was talking about how the beta, you know, I don't really see much of a difference. Then we played, and he noticed the pathfinding was a little. There was wood issues, like gathering wood. So the thing is, though, I reported the bug. I paused the game. I reported the bug, and then now they have something that they can see that is tangible and say, "Oh, here's a problem with the beta. Here's a report that we got." And if people aren't playing the beta, then they're not going to know what's going on with beta. And if 8 people are playing beta and 8 people report the wood gathering thing instead of just one person saying it, and then they kind of like, "Oh, well, this is one person." I don't know. Many voices make change. Always has, always will. That's why Seth got back into the game, because too many voices came out and said, "No, this is stupid. We want it back to our level." So that they put it back. But I don't know.
I do think I'd like to see the people working on the game playing the game they're working on a little bit more. And I know that's like a big ask when they're already spending their free time working on the game. But like, how are you going to play test and know what you're implementing is good or not if you're not actually playing it?
You know, Brandon made a point about that.
Just play it, but behind, like, not through the matchmaking, closed doors kind of thing.
Yeah, he mentioned he played. He says it's hard to want to play after editing some things and programming scripts for like 4 hours, which I get.
Fair. I totally get that, and I appreciate him doing that. But still, like, maybe a game here or there. I don't know. Take a break off for a day, a match.
Yeah. Do you find yourself getting sucked into the competitive scene, Myth? Like, do you find yourself not getting sucked in because you're obviously not in it yet? But like, do you like have that itch that people get when they come back where they want to like try and prove themselves, or is that kind of gone out the window for you now? Like, I mean, I've always had it, and that's why I always stay and play, because I always want to be competitive, and that's what I enjoy about this game is winning and playing competitive games. So, I'm a little bit different than Craig, who, he was the best. He enjoys the game still. He's got the itch again, but it's not an itch like my itch to be the best or to be the second best, because I'm never going to beat an ECL. But like, what keeps you here, and what makes you think? What makes you continue to want to play?
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit of a competitive nature, but I think for me, I've kind of realized that like it's a fine line between being competitive and having a huge ego and getting like really toxic. So for me, I like try to like walk that line in a way that I'm not, because I've been there before. Right. I remember being a little shit. I don't want to be that guy again. So for me, it's just trying to have fun. Honestly, at this point, like I just like competitive, fair games. It's almost frustrating that people expect so much from me. Like, dude, I've played like 10 games. Like,
yeah, I got that when I started playing again. As if you can come back after not playing for 8-10 years and suddenly play exactly the same. Yeah.
They said Sub was good. I thought Sub was good at the game.
Yeah, that gets a little frustrating, and I get that people are excited and they want to play some games with me, but like and the other thing that frustrates me too is people will be like, "Oh, you need to do X, Y, Z. You need to be chopping wood. You need to be up in your huts." I'm like, I know, I'm just slow. Like I know the things I need to do. I just can't do them. I'm not that quick, and that gets frustrating too.
Yeah,
I can relate. I relate to you there, Myth.
Yeah, I don't know what it has been, but just literally like I've been struggling with the ranking system in terms of winning games consistently. I fluctuate between like 415 to 424 points wise, and I would just keep winning, losing. I'm all the way up to like 447 now. I don't know if it was signing up for the tournament and getting that competitive streak in me again, but I've been winning games nonstop recently on a bunch of different levels, and it's like that for me is fun. Like I'm excited about winning games and getting better at the game, even at 32, because I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm 32 and I'm still like doing really well. But I know everybody doesn't have that same feeling about the game, You know
what I don't see, and what I used to really enjoy and really used to make me feel good about myself was playing 1v1s and beating people 1v1. I don't see any, if maybe one or two, but there's nothing compared to 2v2s. It's all team games. Oh, I beat so-and-so and so I'm this good, but you had an ally, it was a team game. You don't see anyone proving the metal 1v1, who is better at this map, who is better at that map. That was such a big thing back in the day. What was that? Was that the same for you, Myth?
So I'm a weird outlier here, but I was always terrible at 1v1s. Like I enjoy the team aspect of the game more than anything. I like having to support somebody, and I like someone to be able to support me. That's where the fun is for me. For me, it's finding the perfect ally, right? Finding that guy that fits your personality and knows
Correct.
what you need. Like, that's fun. Like, I've played people that are really good and they're just bad allies, right? Or they just are bad allies for you, right? Like,
Yep.
maybe they're with somebody else, but they just
DC
don't.
and I are terrible allies. We're terrible.
So that's the fun that I have, is finding that perfect dream team that's unbeatable.
Who was that for you back in the day?
Do you remember Colt? I played with him a lot.
Yeah, I remember Colt.
Yeah, I liked he played well. I liked allying Arnie. I really miss that dude.
Yep.
I think he popped in maybe a year or two ago. He popped back in. It's called Red Rum.
It was Red Rum.
Matchmaking.
Yeah, I missed that guy. He's also just a nice guy. He's always been kind of humble and chill.
He used to have some mountain length EP games with him and Chinaman and the like. Just great games back in 2004, 2005.
Chinaman, he was something. Yeah.
I played some good games with you too, Keith. I remember doing some fun fuckery.
I don't. I only remember certain games with you from now. I don't remember a lot. I remember a lot of games, right? We were just talking about Colt, and I was like, I remember that Craters game where I was yellow and he was green, and I was 1v1ing him, and I was so confident I was going to win because I had like 140 pop, and I kept looking at his shaman in the front, Next thing I know, that was a ghost, and he's in the back door. Doored me, destroyed my entire base, and the 1v1. Literally, I'm dead. I remember that game.
I think I was in that game because I remember that.
Yeah, I think it was like an ego thing. I think it was me being like, I'm better, I'm the best now, or something, or I'm better. And Colt was just like, he came back and he was like, yeah, I don't think so. And then he just destroyed me.
That's like that strategy that I was talking about, though. That people, I don't see a lot of that anymore.
People don't make ghost shamans anymore, Craig.
Oh, I make ghost shamans all the time.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you've mentioned that. Like, people don't do that kind of stuff, Myth. They don't make ghost shamans when they're attacking.
Hydra troops and huts, like that used to be a really solid strategy. Backdoor the fucked up troops.
That's a huge one. Yeah,
that stuff.
I used to make ghost shamans every time I spawned. I die, spawn, just have another one at the ready, just confuse people. You have ghost shamans all around there. People never know 100%.
You can also use it on PP really well by pushing mid or the side. They don't know which way to go.
Yep.
If you have control mid.
Get someone to waste 4 lightnings on your ghost shaman, there's not many bad feelings in that.
Oh, it's so satisfying.
Yeah. I missed a lot of that strategy. I miss Dead Sea.
Yeah, me too. We
could play it. We'll play it sometime. We'll play it.
I don't think I'll be able to play it well, but
we'll play it.
I used to love it. I used to love people who had like high pings back in the day. Used to love it as well because it wasn't as detrimental to have a higher ping and a bit of a delay.
That's another issue I'm struggling with is all these European players. Like, my ping is always close to 200, and I feel like if Keith hosts, I'm like, oh shit, this is like a new game. This is like a whole other game. Is this what it's like? Hey, at 100 ping, this is amazing.
So where are you at in America? Sorry.
Oh, West Coast.
Oh, okay.
California,
the furthest away. So that's another thing that makes me not want to play, to be honest, and it sucks. But it's a reason.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense too. I didn't even think about that.
This is where them dedicated servers would be handy. You know, like an East Coast server would be good.
Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know how they do it, but that would be cool.
I mean, like I say, me, Keith, and Hugo generally play games. We're fairly equally skilled, all three of us. And Hugo plays in 300 ping pretty much all the time. He doesn't like it, but he's still you got to give him some respect for it. He's a good player. Always seems to beat us most of the time, to be fair.
You know what's funny is that when you were in Argentina and he had the best ping that he's ever had because you were in Argentina, that was when he really enjoyed playing. No, it was when he really enjoyed playing with us. That was when
he had like 40 ping or 70 ping or something.
70. It's 70 ping. It's a big deal.
Yeah, you really notice it. And I'm just not good at playing. Like, some people, like, that's how they've always played, right? Like, they have bad internet, like, used to it, but I'm just not. Like, I used to host a lot. I used to play with, like, US players. Like, It's hard getting into it with that.
Yeah, there's not as many.
Kind of a shitty
Blessed being on the East Coast, but I can't. I forgot about that fact because if you're on the West Coast and you're playing with the Japanese people, you actually get good ping if they host, and then they get 1 ping.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
that makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah, Keith as a host wouldn't be too bad, I suppose. What do I give you, Keith? 120, something like that.
Yeah, on the East Coast, I'm super blessed because I get good ping from pretty much anywhere in the world. Like everywhere is pretty great. So I like being right where I am. That's why I've always played Populous. I think I've never had to be burdened with 200 plus ping usually ever. So there's a lot of people that really could be better players if they had less ping and it'd be more enjoyable for them. So,
well, that's an attempt to play in Argentina outside of Friday Free for All. 300 ping was just insane.
Well, I don't know. Now that Colt, he was notorious for having like 350 plus ping.
Yeah, that was what made him so great. That's why people thought he was a legend. Because honestly, try winning on 350 ping all the time. He did.
I remember he finally got the ability to host, and he did, and he just decimated people. He was one of the top players at one point.
Yeah,
he was good. Has he ever come back? Yeah, has he ever come back? Or
I think once, but it was like
I remember playing on Pressure Point. I don't know why this one rings a bell, but I remember he used to patrol like 3 firewalls on his shaman all the time or something like that. That might have been you, Myth, actually. I don't know.
More a methodical campier player, and he'd love to backdoor. But
yes, he did.
When he attacked, you felt it, right? Like it was very thought out. It wasn't just like some earthquakes at the front of your base and you fix it or whatever.
Who was it who said that they never leave their base unless Josh Yeaman's dead? Was that Tsunama or was that Red someone or something?
Bread fan?
Oh,
yes.
Bread fan. He was a cool guy too.
He would sit in his base and say, "You literally say, I am not leaving unless Josh Yeaman's dead." Like he was that kind of player.
Yeah, I mean that's a strategy. I hate it, but there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think. I feel like
a lot of the new era players hate camping. Like they hate campers and they hate camping, and they literally like they like bully you into trying to not camp. Like I played a game of PP like a week ago, and I had to camp because I was at like 60 pop because I got doubled, and so I camped my way back up to 150, and like Spyro got super pissed off about it. Like he's like, all he does is camp. Like that's all he does. Like just camps, and I'm like, what do you expect? It's a strategy. Like 60 pop. Like I got doubled. I what do you want me to do? Attack with an earthquake? Like against your 180 pop?
Those people need to utilize troops more and hit more than 1 point. Like you should always be hitting 2 points at once if you can that are spaced out far enough that a shaman can't respond, because that counters campers pretty hard.
So I guess in closing, Myth, we've got a little bit of time left.
Have we?
Well, we got a little
half
bit of
hour
time
podcast
left, so
was the aim.
when we come back, we're going to close out with Myth giving us secret tips and anything that he can pass on to players if he's going to leave this Populous community behind. Maybe he can give some people some tips and tricks. So we'll be right back for our final segment of the Populous Podcast.
The Populous Podcast, you didn't know that you needed.
What's that?
I don't have any. I don't know. No, I don't know.
I think he's given them. I think it's just, be more willing to explore different strategies and play different restrictions. I think you become a better player for it, don't you?
Yeah.
And even playing losing games.
Hey, don't be afraid to lose.
Yeah, play a game that is maybe a little one-sided. It'll make you better. It'll make you better defending. It'll make you'll still lose it, but you'll be better for it.
There we go.
Anything else?
Are we back on?
Yeah, I'll probably edit it. Like I'll probably edit it where you say I don't have anything. Come back from that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I was saying earlier too. Like I always try to hit 2 points at once. I always try to distract people. Troops up one side, shaman on the other. Use ghost shamans, that kind of stuff. Like really throw the enemy off any way you can through deception or. You use strategy. Don't just follow the meta. You know what I mean?
I think that I want to start doing ghost shamans now more so in this community because I got to tell you, people don't do it, and even Nisi doesn't do it. And I think that's the one thing that I could like put into my gameplay that would make me, be a little bit more unique because everybody's like robotic with their. Everybody does use worldview now because Nisi uses worldview. So like. And you don't have the mini map anymore where we could see everybody shaming on the mini map. So, now if you're looking in worldview, but you've got 5 different circles on the worldview of a shaman because there's 4 ghosts and then 1 real one, I think that could really make a difference in terms of like PP gameplay, even face off. Like every map can benefit from making a fake ghost shaman and really throwing somebody off. So I'm probably going to try to use that more because I think that's something we got to bring back because this meta has seen like the death of Ghost Army as a strategy.
I would say people just need to be willing to come out the comfort zones and play Dead Sea. Yeah,
we'll play some Dead Sea.
Just play some different maps.
Turn preachers back on. All
right. So tips and tricks: don't be afraid. Hit 2 points at once. Play Dead Sea. Be willing to lose. And, be humble in losing. Play Dead Sea. Did we say that one already? I don't think we did.
I think we did.
Oh, and play Dead Sea. Oh, and turn on preachers. Preachers are not your enemy. They're your friend. They can really help you. We got to make Populous great again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that's it for the Populous Podcast. Myth, want to thank you very much for joining us today. Been a pleasure, and maybe we'll have you on again sometime, but at this point.
I was thinking it would have been good for an FAQ, the amount of things that maybe people might want to ask you, Myth, about, the EA times. So if anyone listening or watching the podcast has any questions, put them in the comment section. I'm sure Myth might have a look at them and maybe give you some answers if you can.
And this is a lot of fun, you guys. I actually really enjoyed this, so thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, my good sir. It was a lot of fun.
We're just a bunch of fans of Populous, aren't we, Keith?
Yeah, we are, aren't we?
Cheers, Myth. Thank you very much.
Later, guys.
Later, buddy.
Populous Podcast. You didn't know you needed. With your host, Keith52, and co-host, Sub-Zero.
How do you think that went?
I think it went pretty good.
I think it was a good guest. Great guest, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge. Still, I understand that in podcasts you're supposed to let the guest talk, but I'm so excited when I hear him start talking about the history. I'm like, I want to say something about this.
Yeah, I know.
I do it all the time, and I got to work on it.
These podcasts aren't long enough, even though we're going 3 times longer than we originally planned. I feel like we just keep talking about Populous. And if you start including memes and stuff, people are going to be listening for 3 hours long.
I mean, that's why I was thinking next episode we just talk about some of the top players, like their personalities,
no
what
guests.
made them. No guests, just us.
Well, by the time we plan that, I mean, people won't have seen this video, so that might be what's coming up. It might be not what's coming up, because I don't know a lot of players, if I'm being honest with you.
Leave a suggestion in the comments below for Craig and I. What do you want to see for the 3rd podcast episode?
You know what I would like to see? You know what I've got?
What, Craig?
We could, if we are professional enough and we can gather the courage to prepare good interview questions, do a bit of research, a bit of background, we could invite Mark Knight onto the podcast and discuss his contribution to Bullfrog and him. He's the composer of the soundtrack, and he is regularly on the Discord and does occasionally post on YouTube videos. I think even if it's just a 30-minute podcast with Mark
Is that
Knight.
Mark who spams the chat?
No. Mark the Dark Knight, who created the Populous soundtrack. That would be a great interview.
I'd be okay with that.
But that would be something we'd have to be, prepared for. Can't be talking about games with, random players and stuff. Got to talk about what his experience was at Bullfrog, what games he's made, yada, yada, yada. More professional. I don't know if we're that standard yet, so I suppose we'll see how the reception of our podcast is before we invite high-profile guests. Because if we go from there, we could go for Stuart White, the executive producer and stuff.
That's right. We could always just mute the bejesus out of any swear words
That's the plan anyway.
with
I'm
Shaman
afraid.
sounds. Shaman screams, please.
Yes,
Please.
definitely.
So yeah, like I said, leave a message in the comments below. Let us know what you think about the podcast, how you thought it went, what you'd like to hear about from Myth, and suggestions, of course, for Craig and I.
Definitely want some suggestions here.
Yeah, we always want to know how to be better. Again, I'm already well aware. I stop talking so much. Got to listen.
We are just fans of the game, and it'll be good. We tried to prepare for this. We've got some key points, but once you get going, once you get talking about things, you end up losing track of certain things, and we enjoy the discussion. We don't know what it's like for you viewers and listeners.
Yeah, we're hoping that you like it. So, anyway, we'll see you next time on the Populous Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Populous Podcast. Populous Podcast. Populous Podcast.